Bowe, and I thought I'd take a little time now to tell you about some of the tracks on my new album, Soundscapes. Prayers came about when I was doodling around with some African drum sounds. As I hit on a rhythm I liked, the image of tribesmen chanting to the beat immediately sprung to mind. So I recorded the chanting and then felt the rhythm needed more percussion. The instrument that seemed to fit was an Indian tabla, so straight away I had to think about how we could combine two diverse ethnic sounds into one piece of music effectively. That was when I decided to use the theme of cross-culture spirituality and so added the Christian and Islamic prayers. The rest was a matter of coming up with a melody, and it sort of fell together very quickly. This is still one of my favourite tracks that I've ever done, I have to say. I've always loved the atmosphere of what I can only describe as the back streets of Paris, my all-time favourite city if I'm honest. It's been done very well in many films, but rarely in music as far as I'm aware. I wanted to conjure up an image of Parisian charm and culture, kind of off the beaten track. So I used the initial sound effects of a French cafe and then walking out onto an empty cobbled street, where we get a classic French musical ambience. I've always been a fan of Strauss waltzes, and this comes out in the waltz time and the orchestral sound. I know waltz time is a bit unusual in modern music, but I was really pleased with the melody, which I think has a great folksy feel to the music. I think the atmosphere of this piece is great. Okay, I have a confession here. I was wanting to do a dance number as the last few tracks I'd worked on were all a bit down-tempo, and I happened to hear the Funk Star Deluxe version of Bob Marley's Sun is Shining on a TV drama, which I think is one of those rare modern mashups of an original song that actually works really well. This inspired me to do Orpheus. I make no apologies for this, and you can probably hear the influence in the beat and the backing chords. I had also just invested in some new analog synth programs with some great arpeggiators, and that's why it's full of widdly bits. But I didn't want to do just another disposable dance number, so I tried to add a bit of class with the choral vocal melody and the guitar solo. I think it works really well. I called it Orpheus since I love the story of Orpheus in the underworld, the notion that Orpheus loses everything precious to him by looking back, given that to most of us looking back is what makes things precious indeed. Anyway, I think it's a great little number. I'm pretty proud of it. The Iceman. I wanted to create something that fused a modern rhythm with a folk feel, and I also had just read an article about Nordic fairy tales. This inspired me to come up with the premise of a supernatural being called the Iceman who roamed the land, bemoaning his frozen state and longing for the warmth of human company, but knowing that his touch is fatal to them and so he's tormented by his condition. I don't know how much of that comes through in the actual music, but now you know. Anyway, I came up with the most infectious sounding beat and bass line that I could and layered the appropriate icy synth sounds around it. The folk element comes from the violin lead melody and I'm very pleased with the sound. To bring it bang up to date, I added the ragga style break in the middle and couldn't resist that guitar solo, which I think cuts in just right. The end result is something of a musical fusion, but one I'm very happy with. This track was created rather scientifically. I always intended it to be the closing track on the album, and so it needed a dramatic build and ending. I wanted a chord progression around a constant arpeggio, and so I created the little arpeggio heard through the whole track and played around until I found the right chords to fit around it. It was then a matter of building the sound slowly through each cycle. The lead melody synth sound is actually a pad I've used on a number of other tracks, but never as a lead melody, and I think it sounds great. I used the lead and choral vocal sounds to create an epic feel, and I particularly like the way these build at the end. I added the drumming as a bit of an afterthought, but I'm really glad I did, as it gives just the right power and ambience to round off the album. Very pleased with the end result.